We are being hypnotized by people like this. Newsreaders, politicians, teachers, lecturers. We are in a country and in a world that is being run by unbelievably sick people. The chasm between what we're told is going on and what is really going on is absolutely enormous.
Oh yeah, dude. There's some Nephilim shit.
It's like we all know what's going down, but no one's saying shit what happened to the home of the brave. These motherfuckers, they controlling us now, and no one's talking about how they made us fight and be slaves. And everybody's just walking around, head in the clouds and won't awaken to a dead in the grave. But then it's too late, we need to be ready to raise up. Welcome to the end of days.
Everybody is slaves, only some are aware that the government releasing poison in the air.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Nephilim Death Squad. I am David Lee Corbo, a.k.a. The Raven. That is TOPLOBSTA, the father of disinformation. Before we get into today's guest, I would just like to remind all of our live viewers that this is a 30-minute preview only. Sometime around the 30-minute mark, we'll be going live exclusively to patreon.com/Nephilim Death Squad, where you can continue enjoying an ad-free viewing experience, engaging in the chat, and gaining early access to the episode before the general public does, plus a bunch of other perks that await you on patreon.com/Nephilim Death Squad. And guys, you can even sign up for free. Sign up for 7 days worth of a free trial and try to get out before the billing cycle kicks in. But we got a lot of stuff on patreon.com/Nephilim Death Squad, so it's not going to work, and you're going to want to stay. Trust me. Joining us today is Trebles Garcia of Paranoi Radio. Trebles, before we get into the conversation, why don't you let the audience who might not be familiar with you know where they can find your work and what it is that you focus on?
Anxiety at 1000%. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Trebles Garcia, guys, the humble host of Paranoia Radio podcast. I like to say it's the best show with the best content for the best listeners, and I'm just a humble dude doing the dropping truthful bombs of truth and depositing into the bank of knowledge. Thank you for having me, guys.
Of course, of course. Hey, just so you know, every time I do that, the audience doesn't know that. Every time I do that intro and I go, excuse me, guys, before we get started, this is a 30-minute. My anxiety is like, don't this up, don't this up, like the whole time. It's like a demon in my ear screaming at me that I'm gonna fumble the. And then when I do, it hurts. It hurts.
You do fine. You do fine most of the time. And when you mess it up, it's actually more fun, I think.
Is it endearing? Let's ask the audience, guys. When I mess the intro up, is it endearing? We had a conversation with you, Trebles. How long ago was it now? Maybe a month and a half, 2 months ago, or something at that
About
effect?
2 months.
And of course, it was we were your guest on Paranoia Radio, and so it was very NDS centric. But we're happy to have you on the show because it was an hour-long conversation, and of course, you were focusing on us, but you let fly a couple of small details here and there throughout the conversation that piqued our interest in a big way. And so, we're happy to have you on. I kind of want to start this conversation with I hope the audience doesn't perceive it as a cliche question, because I think it's an important one and it's often a fascinating one. But what is it that happened to you, Trebles, that creates a conspiracy content creator? What was your upbringing like? What was the journey like for you?
First, I want to thank the Lord for allowing me to be here today, and I want to thank every single one of you for allowing me to enter your space. My story is a basic one, very, very simple one, bro. We like to kiss, keep it simple, stupid type of stuff. I'm adopted by Mexicans at the age of 12 years old, and my parents are Guatemala. They're from Guatemala, and specifically, I was brought up by my mother until the age of 12 years old, until I left the house, basically taken away by the foster system. But she has a story that probably gave me an traumatic impact in my life. A lot of the times people forget where they come from, and the idea of remembering where you come from, tatting your mom's name on, and scarring yourself on remembering that person also brings on their demons, brings on traumatic experiences, and then it's really hard for you to break the chain for your kids. So definitely what got me here first as a conspiracy theorist, I never fit in, bro. I was a raver. I tried to get into the gangster scene. I tried to be in the party scene. I tried to be an influential person as a kid. I never found myself. It was a mystery life for real. And then once I got adopted, I was that kid that would roll into high school with this #2 pencil in his ear and a notebook rolled up. And in the notebook, there was nothing but freaking taggings about other shit that I didn't even like, right? So I was trying to become something and find myself, when I really found out that later on down my life, it's not about finding yourself, it's about creating yourself and recreating good things and habits and influences and being impactful for your kids and for your family members with putting Jesus first. And so yeah, before anything, once I figured in the rave scene, they gave me my name Trebles. So in 08, from 2008 all the way to 2017, I was a raver for almost 10 years. And the last rave, I found out that I went in sober and I saw that all the things that I would feel, the music, the demonic presence, the naked women, the sex, the homosexuality, not that I'm, but there's a lot of freaking people there. You know what I'm saying? And yes, it was a realization of my life where I was like, this is not for me either. I'm empty. I tried drugs. I tried beer. I tried leaving my parents. I tried going back to my parents. I tried everything, bro. Everything in my life. The only thing that I didn't try was staying sober and opening the Bible. And a lot of the times I open up the Bible, I come at the Bible not as a Bible thumping Christian warrior, but as a conspiracy theorist. I go into the Bible looking for conspiracy theories, and then I find a little Jesus. And it's funny. It's funny how that works. He has all plans for me. But yeah, I'm not sure if you want to get into my life or you want to get into that creepy story that my mom told me when she was.
Well, I would like to ask you a little bit about that whole rave experience, because it is cliche in so many ways for when you imagine somebody warning you against any kind of genre of music. You almost imagine like a old white conservative Christian character telling you something that rhymes with that's the devil's music, right? And it's easily dismissed in so many ways, and that's sort of fascinating, because even on a surface level, when you look at this, let's say rock and roll, for example, so much of those themes, Luciferian, satanic themes, the symbolism and such, they're not even cleverly hidden in any way, shape. They're right there on the surface. It's what they lead with. And then, of course, you look at the state of hip hop now, and it's very obvious that there is a effort to push a satanic agenda, and whether or not that's like a morally debased agenda to try to erode the moral fabric of a country, or if it's in the symbols and the messaging literally, when they're actually talking about selling their souls to demons and things like that. It's fascinating to me, Trebles, that you spent 10 years in there, and then all of a sudden something switched and your lens cleared up and you could see it for what it was.
Definitely demonic. And everything that you said it works together, bro. It's not just the beats, the awesome beats, the hardcore style, the dancing styles, the trends. It's not just the naked women again. It's not just the style of dressing. It's not just that, bro. It's everything. It's part of the culture. The entire culture has been infiltrated so that you can behave at a low frequency pattern. Do you actually people go to the raves to enjoy music only? They go to these raves to enjoy music high as hell.
Yeah.
To pop to do coke. I remember freaking hiding 2 bullets of at least $80 worth of weed of coke each in my nutsack, bro, and in my high top chucks, so that I could go in there and start taking freaking lines, bro. Believe it or not, it's amazing. It's not amazing. It's an amazing experience to go through to realize that that's not for you. That's what I meant.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is tantalizing in that way, though. Like, I've been to a rave or like an EDC type festival one time, and when I was there, I did in fact do Molly and then a bunch of cocaine that I found on the ground.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I found a Ziploc bag of cocaine. It was crazy. I went into it wasn't on the ground. I went into a porta potty, found a Ziploc bag that was almost like certainly stashed in a way for somebody else to come and get. And I took it. And then when I left the porta potty 5 minutes later, the police like swarmed the porta potties and just started arresting everybody except for me. I had no idea what was going on. I just found it. And then, so yeah, there's this big allure where, not only is it, like you said, the beats and they're hypnotic and, they're kind of the medium for this programming that's coming your way, but then you look around and there's half naked women everywhere and there's drugs everywhere. So
they know how to attract you, bro. They know how to attract you. There's wedding chapels at EDC, bro. So people want to get married in the style, right? It's not just that, bro. They get you going. They got these smaller little level raves that lead to the biggest rave festival in the Western Hemisphere, right? And have all these little ones to start attracting kids at a very young age. And I remember in 2010, which was the last EDC in LA, people died, bro. People got trampled over. People got, they died at a very teenagers in high school died at a rave that was 18 plus.
Do you remember
and I was
that?
a dude rush.
Do you
I'm
remember
sorry?
that Travis Scott concert?
Yeah, just like that.
That was
So
really bad.
mhm,
That
yeah.
was like Astroland, right? What was it called?
Mhm.
Astroland, that's correct. Yeah,
Mhm.
and the stories that were coming out of there were, I mean, like it's coming from a group of people that are just there for the music and the sort of debaucherous lifestyle, and the next thing you know, they're coming back to TikTok with reports of like it felt demonic, it felt oppressive, and people were dying.
What do you think happens when you get out? So you have these withdrawals, right? And I didn't have them that on the 2017 in EDC, and I came out and I was like, I didn't have those withdrawals. I came out a little bit more awakened, if anything, and I decided to like really change that style of my life and a portion of my life. And but most of the times that I remember EDC was going hard all 3 days, coming out, and then you would be on a withdrawal for the next month, thinking, and people say, oh, withdrawals because that was my happy place, and throughout the year I'm freaking paying for high price tickets, and I'm just trying to go to this place, and that's like your pinnacle of heaven, like your pinnacle of pleasure, right?
Yeah.
And then you find out, like, no, bro, you are being withdrawal because you got a bunch of demons attached to you. What happens? You stop going to work. You're lazy at work. You're lazy with your family. You start putting priorities over your kids. You start doing more drugs, trying to relive and reinitiate that feeling, right? That emotional feelings that you had, try to rebalance your chemical imbalance that you had once you came out because of all the drug abuse, right? All the dehydration of your body that you put through, that reckless behavior. And then you come out and you're like, oh, it's I just love that place. Because that's probably, you haven't found yourself. You at that point, you are experiencing high level, low frequency bombardment of electronic music, demonic entities, and drug abuse, and think that that's pleasure, think that that's happiness. And I mean, who could blame you? The way that we're raised, look at the food that we're eating.
That reminds me, well, a couple of things. So I remember as a kid, like being invited to some of these things. I went to a danger party in New York City. And danger parties were very much like some of the first raves. They would just pop up out of nowhere, and it would be like, there's a danger party tonight, and it's going to be in the village. It's going to be in this warehouse, and it's the craziest shit you've ever seen. But I remember going in there and overwhelmingly thinking, this is like, I just could not avoid everything about it. I was like, this is so, no offense, even
No,
the
but it
music.
literally is, right? You have like dudes like in
Yeah.
like highlighter colored shit, and they're like everything is like very colorful and exuberant, and everybody is pouring this like energy out that is like it's overwhelming in that way. And yeah, you could definitely categorize it
Oh,
as
it was
100%.
like super. And I remember like I was like, I want nothing to do with this. Like I ended up leaving early, and they were like, oh, but the girls, and I was like, yeah, but I was like, I don't like this shit. This is
It's
weird.
funny because they don't even smash. They don't, it's not like they're looking to go get down. It's not, it doesn't work like that, bro. It's funny because, and they promote that. Oh, peace, love, unity, and respect. Everybody hugging each other. Everybody's love. Everybody jumping at the same time. And yeah, you're synchronized to a certain pattern of energy, but you're not. It's not like you. It's not, you're looking for something. And then when you eliminate, like everybody says that shit, you eliminate Christ and God and the creator out of your life. Guess who moves in deep? He moves in deep with a gang of people, with a gang of demons. So yeah, man, I hear you. Faking.
Yeah.
There is this thing that happens too, where you were talking about it. It's like after you're done with this bender of drugs, it like, I don't know if I'm not very smart when it comes to chemistry, but it's like it drains you of serotonin or whatever the chemical compound that's supposed to make you happy. You stop producing it for, it's like it drains your serotonin reserves, and then you're left sluggish and depressed and just like with this black cloud looming over you afterwards until you recover.
Yeah, I agree. Yes.
What I was gonna what I was getting at as well is that like, so that feeling kind of stood with me about, I was like, yeah, this isn't my scene. I thought maybe I was weird. I was like, this is, but then I listened to the episode of Merkel's show where the guy goes to Joshua Tree. I forget the name of the episode.
Yeah, portals in the desert or something like that.
Yeah,
Portal?
desert portal, something like that. So the guy's in Joshua Tree. He basically goes to one party, ends up getting convinced to drive 5 hours through the night to another party in the desert, and gets stuck there for a bunch of days. And he experiences like a portal shift, vampires, all kinds of wacky stuff. But one of the things that he mentions in the story, which sticks out, is that they were like, they were in a tent and they were super excited because they were like, yo, the twins are here. The twins are coming. And the twins were 2 DJs. And they came in and he said they started DJing and they like because of what they were playing, it transformed the entire room. And he said like I think he was seeing people shapeshift, he was seeing all kinds of weird stuff, and he thought that he was dosed. So he ends up like leaving and he goes into the bathroom. Some weird stuff happens. When he comes out, he's like the tent is in the air floating with the portal above it, and people are like flying around. This is what the guy says. But the thing that sticks out is the DJs. Everyone was super hyped for these guys to come because they were going to introduce a certain atmosphere into this place that was going to bring in something. And once they did, it got weird. The whole party went sideways.
So in 2017, I wanted to go see Showtech, which is my favorite hardstyle DJ set. I want to go see their set, and the thing that you're talking about, it's kind of like the intro part of the Blade. Have you ever seen Blade?
Yeah, shout out somebody in the chat actually.
Where they're all dancing, human dance scenes, right? But once the blood starts like falling on them, their faces start like to morph. There we go. Gay Blade scene. Exactly.
Yep. There you go.
So I started seeing, it wasn't a shapeshift, but I started seeing people's faces like looking at me angry because I wasn't part of it. And it's like when you're walking amongst them, and they're like, if you're high as hell and if you're like bouncing to the beat with them, they would hug you and they would rock with you and everything. But this time I'm by myself and I'm videotaping everything. I'm recording everything on my iPhone, and I'm walking and everybody's looking at me. They're like giving me their back. They wouldn't look at me or share that same moment with me.
Yeah, because you were a day walker.
I was a day walk. And then the moment was like everybody would jump. I felt the waves of the beat, bro, hit my hairs. And it would stand up, and I would get the chills, but I would get the heebie-jeebies. It wasn't like, oh yeah, boom, I'm happy. It wasn't the happiness. It was like, holy crap! Like, you know, like when you get into fear, you like, what the heck's happening, bro? Like, I don't like this shit.
You go into like observer mode where you're like taking it all in. Yeah.
Yes. You're like watching everybody. They're jumping, and then it's not. I mean, it's sexual. It's dark, and then people are looking at you, and then they give you their back at you. It's not like, what happened to all the love? What happened? I thought it was for everybody and everything.
That was my problem at the danger parties, and that's exactly what it was. It was like I was like, I don't belong here. Maybe because I wasn't high with them, but
that's the problem.
I came in skeptical too. I was like, first off, because like the crew that I was rolling with, I was like, these guys are. There's nothing like every single one of them. I ended up going to high school, the same high school as like Brooklyn Tech, I believe. But then I transferred out like after 2 weeks, as I wanted to play baseball in Lincoln. So I went with them. And every single one of them that went there ended up in rehab for some kind of drugs. And I was like, boy, did I dodge a bullet. Because I would have ended up straight with these guys. Like hard stuff, like pills, stuff like that. And
this is something that we talk about a lot, though, Top, right? It's like I like that way you described it, where you used to play in a band in the church, and it was like you are preparing people to receive the word, right? And so you're like warming up the crowd with music. And then once everybody is in the right headspace, let's say, or tuned into the correct frequency, then there can be some real movement of the Holy Spirit, let's say, right? Because now you're tuned into that. And you see the same thing when it comes to like witch covens. So they have their mantras, they have their chants, right? There's a musical aspect, or even let's go to something a little bit like, let's say the Native Americans, for example, right? Where they are engaging in these shamanistic rituals. And it starts with tobacco and burnt offerings, maybe marijuana or something like that. And then also chanting and music. And then once you're there, after, all of this is settled in, then the shaman will channel. It'll channel an entity. They'll channel a spirit. To me, it sounds like the exact same thing, but you have to imagine that if that's a form of, let's call it, for this argument or for this thought experiment, a form of technology. And the technology is to change things on a molecular level around you so that they are more ready to receive an entity, maybe. And a Native American shaman session is a rudimentary form of that technology. Then 2 twin DJs with speakers that are the size of, city buses, and a crowd full of people who are all inundated with no longer tobacco and marijuana, but like synthetic drugs that come out of a laboratory.
And then echo his name throughout the time before they arrive, right?
Yes, yes. So to me, it's like it's a much higher level of that. So if people gathered around a campfire, you know, in when Native Americans were more prominent in the country, were susceptible to that sort of frequency or being able to tune into that. If you dial up the efficacy of the drugs, you dial up the efficacy of the technology that's making the music, you dial up the music itself, like, yeah, it's much more effective.
I did 3 sessions of Forthcoming of a Man with Moscalero Apaches. My ex was Moscalero Apache, and she did her Forthcoming of a Woman. So did her little sisters. And I was with her for about 7 years. And the last 4 years were very troublesome. And we went and I did the Forthcoming of a Man in the desert. So it's kind of like what you say. There were sweat lodges. And I'm talking about, bro, intense. Like you think, oh, because you're not part of it. Like they accepted me. I gave them the offering. They did the whole prayer. We didn't eat. We fasted. And then we get into this thing, bro. It's a teepee. It has circled rocks. And in the middle, there's a deep, like a pit. And you sit in 3 circles of men. And then this is funny because it's intense. They start warming up the rocks outside, their lava rocks, and then they put them in. They open the little side door, and there's just Bear Claw and all the dudes that were there. Bear Claw was like the chief, right? You would say the lead, and he put them in there, and then he starts throwing mist. And then the first 3 sessions, they're long. They're like 3 minutes long each, bro. First 3 sessions, you start feeling like a sauna. You're like you start getting that anxiety, you can't breathe, right? And then they come when they hit you with this. And they start singing like from their heart, and then they start hitting the beat, right? Boom, 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 and they start like building on it. Then you hear guys tap out, like some other dudes like, I can't. Like I let them out, but every single person that taps out, we have to restart the rings. We have to take out the rocks and put them back in, and then restart it. So you get no breather. You have to fulfill the entire freaking 30 lines, the 30 sessions. So on the last one, which is really, really funny because I felt spiritual. Check this out. He was throwing the water on the rocks. He would stop and he would start singing, banging his shit. And then I was towards, I think, my 26th ring already. And I was, bro, shitting breaks, man. Excuse my language. And I was like, I can't freaking hold it anymore. I can't breathe. And the dude next to me, he was overwatching the guys in the outer ring, and I was in the outer ring. And the outer ring is one of the worst ones because the heat hits the teepee and it comes down behind your back and it hits behind your head. Yeah. So you're like, oh crap! Like you could feel every single time he throws the water, the foam, the heat hits you, right? Dude, he comes and he gets to me. He goes like this. He puts his shoulder on me, and he goes, be one with the ground. And I didn't get it. And then 2 more rings came by, bro. And I was jetting it, dude. I was about to tap out. But if I tapped out at 27, they all had to start all over again. So I can't just do that. I can't be. So I was like, all right. So I'm a kicker. I'm a feint. It is what it is. And my hands started getting really cold. But my body was overheating. I don't know what it was. Like my blood pressure. I don't know what my sugar levels. And I was about to collapse. And he goes, be one with the ground. And then it hit me. So what they do is they do this layered caping of leather flooring. They put like leather tarp on the floor, and they're layered up. So it has a slit, like a slit, right? And I seen it. I felt the slit with my feet, and I got my hands and I put it under my hands were cold. I put them under the leather, and I felt the dirt. And I went like this to the dirt, and I grabbed the dirt, bro. The dirt was so cool, bro. It cooled up my palms, and I started feeling my cold blood rushing to my head. And then it gave me like breathing, like it gave me air, oxygen. Dude, I was like, and when I breathed out, he goes, there you go, here. And he passed me a freaking drum. I started beating the living shit out of it, bro. Like, just into it, bro. I was so energized, bro. I felt that out. And then that's when the singing started even going up. We went 33 rounds, bro. He was just throwing air, and he would just put more rocks. And we just everybody was like, even in like a trance, going like this, which just just
33 rounds, you said?
33 rounds, bro. 33 rounds, bro.
Illuminati confirmed.
Yeah, Illuminati confirmed. And we got out, bro. They let you out in they put this leather thing on you, and they cover you up because your body, and the desert's freaking cold, and then we had a feast after, right? And I almost fainted when I came out, and then all the women were like, "Yes, you did it!" And I was like, "Yeah!" And like, it was part of a brotherhood. It kind of felt like when I got jumped in jail, and then everybody freaking loved you after because you were down for your shit. It was funny, bro. But yeah, very spiritual, very. They get you into the trance.
It's fascinating because you started off talking about like fasting, right? So many of these ritualistic processes are reminiscent of one another, as far as fasting and how that relates to Christianity, but also it's a spiritual practice, and it seems to be part of this preparing your body. The same way that the music prepares the atmosphere, there's also a preparation of the body that goes into it. And I think it's fascinating because you managed to grip the dirt, which changed the trajectory of this entire experience to a positive one. And we know that there's a resonance frequency, right, that comes off of the earth. It's the Schumann's frequency, or Puharich used to call it elf waves, extremely low frequency waves. But it seems like, because I more and more, we just look at things through the lens of energy and frequency. And it seems like you tapped into that.
Yeah, definitely. I grounded myself. I stopped living in my head, and I started living with the dirt, and I just gave it my energy. And this is before I really turned to Christ, right? But it was an experience. And when I came out, I remember puking. It was all yellow, and everybody started puking. And it's like if they took out something out of you. And I'm not saying that it's right to do, and I'm not saying that's ritual things, but if they believe in it, at the time I did believe in it, I felt cleansed. I felt clear-minded. For the entire week, I felt more energized, more powered. I didn't want to eat burgers and stuff. I wasn't how do you say that? I wasn't looking for sugar because I have a problem with sugar, and I wasn't looking for the drugs and stuff, right? So I'm like, oh, my sweet tooth. Before, like right now, I'm drinking them on Coke and coffee, and before, during the time I did those forthcoming of a man rituals, I forgot about it. I wasn't hungry for that anymore. It wasn't like my brain. It was almost as if that parasite was eliminated, killed,
Interesting,
taken out of my body. Very interesting stuff. Yeah.
We look into that too, where it seems to be a large correlation between parasites and demonic possession. And I'm still yet to, it's almost like the parasites are a conduit. Like if fasting is, it prepares the body, then parasites do something where they augment the body and make it more susceptible to like demonic oppression. I think there's a correlation there. But we brought this up on the show that we did Saturday, where I was driving and I was listening to Blink 182, and it was, I think, their newest album. And there's a hit off of that album called One More Time. And it's very much a throwback to their old music. It sounds exactly the same. It's a very simple song. It's not impressive by any means, but it has this nostalgia factor where like,
what a
oh,
crazy sentence. There's a hit song on Blink 182's new album.
Yeah. That is a crazy sentence.
Say to me?
And it's not a bad song, but it's by no means a good song. But it is remarkable because Blink 182 is so formulaic that they were able to go back and tap into that formula and then recreate something that felt exactly the same as their old shit. And then I realized that there was a time, obviously Tom DeLonge or DeLongo or DeLongedy, Long Tom, he moved away from Blink 182. And I think something happened where like Travis Barker wasn't available to do drums. So they couldn't call it Blink 182. He made a new band with a couple new guys and he called it Angels in the Airwaves. And it's like, it sounds kind of, it almost sounds, I don't even think, I'm like, Angels in the Airwaves. I like the name Blink 182 better, but whatever. And then I realized like, oh, this guy is now giving us, UFO disclosure. Tom DeLonge is in whatever form or fashion, very strange, but that name, Angels in the Airwaves, is actually pretty interesting because I once again, start to look at the world more through frequency and vibration and energy. And I realized that there are angels, there are fallen angels, there are angels that are still in the grace of God, and they interact with us as frequency, as thoughts and inspiration and messages and things. Angels themselves are messengers, right? So, and they convey these messages seemingly through inspiration. It comes to you in a dream. It comes to your mind suddenly. You're inspired. This thought, this idea for a project or whatever it is comes to you, or you feel compelled in one way or another to do something. But that is thought waves. Thought waves are frequency. So angels in the airwaves to me is like, damn, this dude knew some shit and he put it right there, right in front of you, and he didn't tell you what it meant.
The Beatles have a song called Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
That's what it's called, right?
My wife was playing it when we were driving back from Tops this weekend, and I had to request that she turned it off because I don't like the Beatles or that. So yes, but they do have it. It's a song about LSD, right?
When you listen to almost all Beatles songs, it feels like you're listening to a song and then a song underneath it as well. That's always the feeling that I get. Like,
Right.
While my guitar gently weeps, it's like, and it's like, but there's like this underlying melody that I can never put my finger on because I feel like there is some sort of mind control going on with these guys.
Yeah, I just don't. Every song is bad, and that's how I feel.
They tell you to
Every
eat
time I
every 4 hours for a reason, bro. The smallest amount of fasting they get you to do, the best it is for them to be able to manipulate your habits, because it all starts with food, bro. It all starts with your first brain, which is your stomach. They're able to control. I think the most important thing is they're able to control you easily through messaging, like you said, frequencies, songs, adaptations, movies, entertainment. All your five senses get bombarded by these freaking low frequency. And while you're induced, because you're eating, you're overeating, which is also a biblical sin. So and then you show your kids that. My little toddler woke up today asking for chips. I'm like, how do you know the word chip? Who taught you chip? I'm not home most of the day, so I'm saying, then my wife would give you chip at 6 a.m. in the morning when you woke up. So that started a whole other conversation with the wife. But you see how my daughter is 3 years old and she's already asking to be enslaved by that pattern. And then it's easy because I ain't gonna cook. God knows I don't know how to cook. So I'm gonna give her a bag of freaking cookies or chips, and she's gonna get what she wants. And then she's not only gonna begin thinking that by asking this is right, by throwing a fit is right, but then her body is gonna start deteriorating from the inside out. So and craving it, which is probably one of the worst things. And through craving, you start. There's a saying in Spanish. It says "La costumbre es peor que la adicción," which means bad habits. Having a bad habit, it's worse than having an addiction, because you're choosing to do it, bro. It's not like you're induced. It's not like you're, for example, addicts. I feel like addicts, even though they can be patients, they have not an excuse. What am I asking? What's the word I'm saying? It's not that they have an excuse to do their drugs and be at that level of frequency. It's just sometimes they're so into it that they can't knock themselves out of it. Like they're in that trance for life, right? But me, as a habit, and I love Coke and I love my Oreos and my Kraft singles, which I do. I make the decision to go make the money, spend the money to indulge in stupid shit. See what I'm saying? So yeah, it's a vice. It's like a vice. So it becomes part of your life.
It promotes a certain gut bacteria that then begins to like create false cravings. When I was younger, I still have like a really serious addiction to sweets, and I'll like I'll binge eat like a psychotic person sometimes. Like I'll go really far, for a long time, being really healthy, eating nothing but like steak and veggies, and staying away from refined carbohydrates, staying away from sugars, unless they're in fruit or something like that. And I'll have a number of weeks where everything's good, and then all of a sudden it's like something comes knocking, and then before you know it, I literally have destroyed a party-sized mega stuff Oreo by myself. Like I am a party of people. And I don't know. Sometimes even the way that happens to me, it almost feels like there's a supernatural aspect to it, because it's like I've been so good for so long, and then suddenly something hits me, and I all I can think about is running over to the corner store, and then I'll do this thing too, where my eyes are bigger than my stomach. I'll come back with like 4 or 5 chocolate bars, a whole thing of candy, and a pint of Ben and Jerry's.
No, you don't need that, bro. You don't need it. You're freaking.
No, you definitely don't need it. And I don't even share it either. I don't share it. My wife's like, is that for? And I'm like, no, if you wanted something, you should have said something. And now I'm just eating an entire Ben and Jerry's to myself.
I'm not sure if you have any kids, but in the future, you got to stop that habit. I'm not telling you what to do. You're your own man. Do whatever the hell you want. If you're happy, I'm happy for you and with you, bro. But I think you're causing DNA damage. You're hacking yourself. And eventually, if you decide to have kids, where you're passing that trauma to your kids, and that trauma is going to be in the form of bad habits and diabetes and other illnesses.
To your point, Trebles, I do have a son. He's 9 years old. We don't keep sweets in the house. You know what I mean? Like, because it's just a trap for me. If I keep sweets in the house, then I'm going to demolish them all. And he doesn't really have access to sweets like that, but he will. I recognize that he has like these insane cravings, and my mother also had them, and so we'll call each other and just laugh about our crippling addiction to sweets. Hey, what you know, completely irrational amount of food did you eat this weekend, mom? And she'll be like, yeah, I was doing really good doing a carnivore diet or some shit like that. And then I also, heated up a pint of Ben and Jerry's, put it into an IV bag and put it on a slow drip and sat there on my sofa and injected myself with Ben and Jerry's, so I do think you're right about that. There is like this generational aspect, whether that's DNA or maybe it's something spiritual or maybe even why not both, right?
Let me pick up the tempo here. So DNA hacking and all that stuff, right? And I think we're all obsessed with aging, and which is how exactly the story started with my great grandmother. And I'm sorry if I'm diverting here.
No, that's fine.
We gotta bring up some more fire.
Actually, wait, before you start that story, we're at the 35-minute mark, David. You want to give him the spiel?
Yes, guys, we are now at 37
give him
minutes.
The business, David.
I'm going to give you the business. If you want to continue listening to this episode, enjoying an ad-free viewing experience, hanging out in the live chat, and, gaining early access before the rest of the public, you can go on over to patreon.com/Nephilim Death Squad, and you can do all of that for free. Sign up for a 7-day free trial and absorb as much content as you'd like. And there is a shit ton of backlog content on patreon.com/Nephilim Death Squad. So, guys, quickly head on over there and be part of the conversation and check it out while it evolves and continues. But otherwise, we are out of here. See you later, YouTube, Rumble, and Twitter.
All right, here we go.
Ooh.
All right, take it away, Trebles.
Yo, maybe first of all, you guys are freaking. I'm sorry.
I said it's messed up, right? We do this to these people every day, and they show up every day.
No, there's no shame in your game, bro. What the heck? You guys work hard at this. Plus, you're freaking masterminds in marketing. Look what you just did. But if you guys want to get the free spiel, you could also go to Paranoia Radio on Instagram, and you can get the rest of it for free.
That's right. Yes. That's what we always do. And honestly, we tell people that as an incentive to go and support our guests, it will continue streaming for free over there.
Yeah.
You want me to? You want me to turn it off? I mean,
no.
I don't want to step on your toes.
That's what we do. That's literally what we do. That way, if anybody wants to and they don't want to support us for whatever reason because they're terrible people, they can go on over and support you and continue watching.
Hey, well, the poor people are gone now.
I just pressed the live button on the thing, so we just went live.
No, it goes live automatically. It's been live, I believe. Oh, it is what it is. All right,
it is what it is.
We're now to this point of the conversation, I guess, Treble, where we're going to start to, I guess, uncover some of these experiences you've been alluding to with your grandmother.
So I haven't experienced it myself. I'm gonna start off with this. My mom lost her to a tree trunk, and that should tell you everything. What's gonna start, but it's crazy. My mother comes from yeah, bro. I don't know if she was doing the ritualistic, but she did it. So the way I started this thing was through DNA hacking, and we're all I'm getting distracted over here. We're all obsessed with living forever and avoiding death. And my mother, when she was number 9 of 12 kids. So when my grandmother had her, she was hanging clothes and she shitted her out. She just standing there, squatted a little. She came out, got the cables, got her from the feet, and then threw her in the trash can, bro. A couple minutes later, my mom's grandmother, which makes her my great grandmother, picked her up and then raised her as her own. Mind you, my great grandmother was said to be a beautiful woman, slutty woman, and also a witch. And the reason I'm telling you this is because my mom used to tell me this story where her grandmother would have medium parties where people would come and pay her and offer her chicken heads and goat heads in a little village called Hualanzacapa in Guatemala. Look it up, guys. It's a small place. I've been there a couple of times, and it's a beautiful place. So what she did was she would have these medium parties, and when the guys and the women, the couples, didn't have enough to pay, she would take something from them. So what would happen was she would have sex with these men, and at night she would turn herself into a wild hog and go them. And she got away with at least 15 men.
I remember this.
So
I remember talking a little bit about this on the conversation that we had, and I immediately my brain jumped to like Skinwalker, like, but in the shamanistic sense.
She
yeah,
killed
yeah,
15 men like that. That's insane.
yeah. So mind you, in these old villages, if you sleep with the married men, the women, they take the law inside their own hand. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Excuse my language. So she came and she said, the people, the girls in the village united, and then they her to death. They trapped her into a ritual that they wanted to like confess with her and do with her and speak with dead people. Then they her to death. My mom witnessed this at a very young age. She was only 9. So then my mom, back then in the day, they didn't have beds. They had hammocks. This is how a lot of people still live out there. And she had long black hair. So she would jump on the hammock at night after she would do some rituals. She would do the tarot reading. She would have the medium practices as well. Then she would lay down and she'll throw her long, silky black hair and then just go to sleep. And in the middle of the night, the spirit of her grandmother would braid her hair. And she would wake up with her hair braided and then start the day again all over again. And it was a 24-hour cycle at the same time every single night. My mom lost her brain. She lost her mind after a while. She came back. She started doing more medium stuff, but then that's when she traveled out here because they were going to start stoning her to death. Now, I'm not sure why my mom would lose her to a tree trunk, but she told me that she needed to jump on the tree trunk and grind on it until she to do a specific for a family. When she failed, the person that she was trying to cure, the person that was sick and the people that came and gave her the money, the offering, the chicken heads and the goat balls, whatever they do. And she failed. She needed to recover and she needed to flee the village because they were going to murder her too. So to this day, she hasn't returned. And I stopped speaking to her because she traumatized my life. My mom was a vicious woman. And I've learned to forgive her. I've learned to love her and admit that I need her because I've always needed her. But I'm away from her, right? The point is, she fled to this country, and that's when I came along. Not that I haven't been exposed to any witchcraft, thank God. I don't think I'm gifted, and I don't want to be, and I refuse and I rebuke all that information, all that pattern, and all that trauma in my life and in her life. And I bless her life because I need to honor her. But she comes from a wicked, wicked background, bro. And just the fact alone that she witnessed that, again, that's what I'm telling you, is she hacked her own DNA. Her grandmother hacked her own DNA. And it started from the womb inside her mom when she shitted her out. Excuse my language. So very traumatic experience, bro.
Why do you think that your grandmother was engaged in witchcraft to any degree? Do you think it was just a commonality in the area that she was growing up, or is this because you're talking about this like hacking and this trying to avoid old age thing? And it's coincidentally, I was just having a conversation with my wife about we get weird impressions from people sometimes, my wife and I, and this one woman in particular who goes to the gym that I go to. We always talk about how she sounds or she gives off this weird energy. But I just came out and said it today. I said, yeah, she gives off energy like a Wiccan, like a witch, but specifically a woman who is deeply upset with the fact that she's aging. Maybe she used to be perceived as very beautiful. You can kind of see that about her, but she has this energy now where she's just oozing this look at me. And it almost feels, it doesn't feel just like an old woman who thinks that she's beautiful and wants people to perceive her that way. It feels like somebody who's engaging in something. That is, it's
Engaging in
very
something.
specific. It's yeah,
And
so I just wanted to ask, what do you know if that was the genesis of why your grandmother got into it, or is it just something else?
what reason? First, I don't know why she would do it, bro. I think it has to be with culture and power and dominion over people. Specifically, if you have control. A lot of the people that do it, bro, they're not in it because they want to feel special or close to Satan. They do it because they have some traumatic experience that they have been outcasted. They're the black sheep of their family. They feel love. What do you think bangers become gangbangers? The same
Right.
reason, because they need love and they need some type of influence over themselves, over people, some type of power. They're narcissistic, right? And I myself indulge in some narcissism myself because I do it all the time with paranoia. It's the same thing. I think we all have a little note in our DNA and in our thoughts to say, I got to do this because my macho-ness, whatever, right? So I think she did it to stay young, because my mom told me that every single time she would transform and come back, she was younger. So it was either the blood that she was consuming over the souls that she was, the people that she was, or it was a gift from Satan himself. You know what I'm saying? I could only imagine how many demons surrounded her. So I think it was most likely to stay young. This is why I kind of brought that in. I think as we speak, bro, as we speak right now, there's over 300 billion cells regenerating in our body, trying to keep us young. I think that's what she tried to stimulate, staying younger through that. DNA hacking with witchcraft.
I think that kind of shit is so much more prolific than the general public is aware. I suspect it's the exact thing that takes place in Hollywood. I would say that it's probably the number one driving force in a female, like let's say you have an actress and she gets to, the big show for being beautiful, and otherwise talentless. And what happens then is that currency starts to run out when they reach a certain age, and it's the cornerstone of your wealth and your success. So if you don't have that, then you don't have anything. So it causes a huge scramble in these women. And I would venture to believe that within Hollywood, an industry that isn't on the surface that you don't get to see is birthed from that. How many actresses need to worry about their youth and their looks before some crusty old witch like a Marina Abramovic or some crap like that comes along with a solution? And then at what point does that solution become widespread and a regular staple, an institution within an industry? I would say look at the Kardashians, and I would say you're probably looking at witches who are trying to keep their youth.
100%. It's like in the days of Noah, bro. Magic and technology. And I'm not saying that this is why these guys live to be 300 years old. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, dude, connecting the dots here, conspiracy theorizing, and you look at this, the Bible saying that things will go back like in the days of Noah, and that Satan will be loose on the earth. It's exactly what we're living through, bro. You think science and magic and technology don't match? They all match at the same frequency, bro. And they're utilized for specific demonic things. For example, magic and stuff, and trying to keep yourself young. And the consuming of blood is not something that's been new, bro. People have, and there's this thing called agua de calzón that they call it in Spanish. And if you have any Latino speakers, they're probably gonna know what this is. It's basically you cook with your period blood to make sure that your fellow paramour becomes more fellow paramourish, if that's even a word.
Yeah,
like they're locked in. Yeah, so it's not that they're controlling their love, but they just can't live without you. It's like an obsession that they feel.
Oh my God, I think that
your dad, that probably happened to your dad.
Yeah, this has happened to my dad. I'm almost 100% sure. I didn't see her bleed into a cup and give it to him, but what I did see was a woman who was very much an outsider come into my family, and then my father, who was a guy that's all about his immediate family, like his sisters, his brothers, and his mother and his father, all of a sudden get wrenched away from them in a very bizarre way. And then I watched this woman freak out anytime he would interact with me. And one day, the icing on the cake was when she walked out into the backyard and I was sitting out there, and she had just been into a big kind of throwdown fight with my father about spending too much time with me and his grandson. And then she has these little paper effigies, and she's going around and she's whispering to them, and then she's putting them on the ground and lighting them on fire. And then she'll go to another part of the yard and she'll whisper to another little paper effigy in her hand, or I don't even know if it was a paper effigy. It's not like I got close enough. And then she would put it down and she would light it on fire. And something happened one day where somebody said that they believe they saw her dipping her panties into something that she was preparing for him.
Oh yeah,
like there you go, man. There you
that's
go.
the stuff. Agua de calzón. There it is.
That's the stuff.
That's the stuff. Yeah. So I don't know, man. I mean, it's something that, like I said, we get it through fiction. I think one of the greatest pieces of fiction, in my opinion, to sort of exemplify this was Dr. Sleep. And in Dr. Sleep, essentially what you had was human looking, but ancient entities that were basically kind of vampires. and they were sucking steam or shine or something like that out of children. And this process, through like traumatizing them and taking this in, is what enables them to remain young and virtually immortal. And you see the same thing in voodoo, right? Like Papa Legba is a voodoo character in a top hat. It's interesting, the top hat correlation there, because same thing in Dr. Sleep, the main character wears this top hat. And he can grant you this like eternal youth or a number of things, honestly, but it comes at the cost of an innocent life. And so a baby. And that's always where these things go, right? It's like these women, this is what I imagine happens. These women do find some success, and you could probably have some success in the short term by like the chicken. But then the magic just, it's like chasing the dragon. Like the magic just isn't there. You need 2 chickens. Why isn't it working anymore? Oh, you need a goat now. Now you need a goat. You're like, okay, it's got to be a baby goat. Oh, okay, it's got to be a baby goat. And
Harder
then you
to
go
get.
for your
Mhm.
re-up, and it's still not working. And then you realize now it's calling for something different. Now it's calling for babies. Now it's calling for innocent human life.
Mhm. It's one level, then the second tier, you get a third tier, and then you have levels to this shit.
Yeah.
Demonic and insane worshiping, bro. You've seen it. You see it through Valentine's Day. You see it through, what's it called? Lupercalia. If that's the word, correct me if I'm wrong. The origins of Valentine's Day. They go into a cave. They worship, these priests worship this deity called Luperlia. Correct me if I'm wrong. Hashtag look it up, guys. Chat GPT that shit. And then they would freaking dissect a dog. They would wear the hide of a freaking goat, and with the intestines of the dog, they'll go back in town, and then all these virgin teenagers would just line up, and then they would whip them with these intestines for fertility, and women would want to get smashed by these guys for the entire year. They wanted it. They put their names in the little basket. They would pull out the name, and then you were his for the entire year. And sex magic to the fullest, bro. Lambs and stuff. We've seen it throughout, even in the Bible. Yeah, man. Bible,
like
the whole, yeah,
That's like a Greek tradition, right?
yeah, Lupercalia, and yeah.
I remember reading up on that. Yeah, dude. It's most of these holidays, Thanksgiving, that one. Even I got to look into St. Patrick's Day, but St. Patrick's Day is kind of shady too. They all have these like weird occultic, paganistic backgrounds that usually come back to some sort of like witchcraft or worship of some entity, in some form or the other. It's very strange, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now
man.
we get a different. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Troubles.
Go ahead. I'm pulling out my
I was
notes.
going to say that now we get a different version of it where I'm sure it still happens in Hollywood to whatever degree. I'm sure it's prolific, but it's entered the conspiracy conversation by way of actually, I don't know if I should. Yeah, I can say it. We can censor it later, but on its face, it's just the torture, the ritualistic torture of children. Well, actually, you know what? We can remove the ritualistic aspect, right? Let's just say in a strictly scientific or medical conversation, we've already established that you can take blood from young mice and inject it into older mice, and that those older mice for a period will be rejuvenated. And then, you need to keep the process up. It's a maintenance thing, but this is well established. And this is something that Joe Rogan talks quite a bit about, that particular experiment where they're putting the blood of young mice into old mice, and the old mice are feeling rejuvenated. And, there's even other things you could do. Like you can take your blood and inject it into like a centrifuge, and it spins it and separates like a platelet rich plasma. And if you inject that into yourself, you kind of have a similar effect. But I just don't think anything's better than the young mice and the old mice. And then all of a sudden you look over, you have that scientific basis. And then you look over and you're like looking at a whole conspiracy about the elite drinking the blood of children. And you go, well, that kind of checks out, because what did
How'd
the
that
elite
get here?
Yeah, well, what do they always want? The elite always want eternal life. They always want some form of
That's-
immortality.
Yeah. And mental health is one of the most rampant things that they're using as a merry weapon, bro. And like you said, it's not only kids, it's grown men. And I'm not saying, guys, that women, what's it called, feminism isn't right. Empowering women is extremely powerful, because they are what we call in Spanish is la ayuda adoña, which means they are the better half of man in culture and in the home and in bed and etc. So, but by diluting mental health, the correct methods of behaving with men at a very young age, is what allows for society for things like this to happen, for allow society to elude. 60% of all men above the age of 15 in the US alone are fathers. Listen to this, bro. And I did a deep dive 2 years ago on emotional damage, and this is crazy. 60% of all men above the age of 15 are fathers in the US alone. 79% of those fathers are committing or thinking of committing in today's age. Think about what I just said. I'm not sure if you guys are all fathers. No, you are, but if, dude, I work in a field where there's mostly men. I deal with 15 men in my branch, and you're telling me that 12 of those men, 11 of those men are thinking of committing today, right now, and nobody knows. They can't tell their wife. They can't tell their best friend. They can't tell on a podcast. They can't tell me. They can't tell no, because what? There's a structure in society where you can't speak bad about yourself or say that you're weak. And I'm not saying you should say that you're weak. I'm just saying you need to surround yourself with a brotherhood where the values are so up high, the morality is so up high, the integrity of being a brother is so up high that they won't talk down to you, right? And save these people. You have the collapse of men, the collapse of the father figure in the house. The father, you put them out, you take them out from the home, you put them in jail, and then your kid at a very young age has to fulfill those shoes of being a man by how? By stealing and providing for the family, providing for their own little sister by stealing and doing drugs and selling drugs, and the cycle continues. The trauma continues. The separations of families continue, and the witchcraft continues, and it's just an ever-ending cycle of witchcraft that they harvest at a very low frequency level, bro. Yeah.
So when it comes to like the masculinity and you know, femininity, it might be a word I just made up, but there's obviously
you're good.
Femininity. Well, I might have fucking butchered it when I said it. That's why I tapered off there at the end.
Femininity.
So obviously it's a double-sided coin, right? So with masculinity, for example, there's the good side, which is the providing father, the protector, right? The builder, the self. And then there's the negative side, which is the tyrant and the destroyer, the violent one, you know, things of that nature. But and women also obviously have the nurturer, the caretaker, the mother, the one who is sympathetic and empathetic, and then you have like the Oedipal mother, which is the overbearing one, the one who can't square away that they are not physically powerful, and so they look elsewhere for power. And they do this thing where right now in Western culture, the good things about masculinity have just been determined to be toxic masculinity, right? Like masculinity in general is toxic. And I think because of that, young men don't know how to act. They don't know how to be men because some of the attributes that are good are demonized by the culture. And then you're not really allowed to, it's not culturally acceptable to talk about the shortcomings of, you know, femininity at all, not in any kind of way. And I think what that's done is it's given us a weird thing. Like one of the phenomena that I'm noticing right now is this. It's not just victimhood culture, but it's this love of being a victim. There's a song right now that's hugely popular on TikTok, and I don't know. No, not that one. And that's actually they stole the beat from Gautier's.
I know.
Whatever the hell that song is, and they did that. No, there's another one where it talks about being a 24/7 baby machine, barefoot in a barn. Right. And so this song is huge right now. And it's like anytime there's a scorned woman, she'll take to TikTok and she'll put that song on. And the song is all about like how unfair it is to be relegated to a barn barefoot and forced to be a 24/7 baby machine, which is called human trafficking. And there's a crime. And I don't know that woman made it out of that barn to sing this song. And I don't know that that's happening to the women that are on stage and are singing this song. But it's gone viral, which is fascinating because we've never had more girl bosses, right? And we've never had less mothers per capita than we have right now. But somehow there is a huge amount of virality to a song that's basically about being a character in Handmaid's Tale, which is not a reality for the vast majority of women, especially if we're talking about the United States of America, because, you know, obviously this is where this song's coming out of. But the point here is that it resonates with women. There is a subsect of women on Twitter that love that song, and they don't see the irony of playing that song on their iPhone in their kitchen while their husband's at work and they're not at work. You know what I mean? It's like there's a whole disconnect there, but there's this love. Yeah. There's an aspect of feminism that loves to be the victim, that kind of yearns for. It's all the women that when Trump, and you can think whatever you want about Trump, but when Trump won the presidency again, they all said that it was Handmaid's Tale. That's what was coming. And I'm not even saying that that's not what's coming. Who the hell knows what's coming? I'm just saying there's nothing right now on the playing field that suggests that you're about to be put in some weird conservative robe and made to just be a baby factory. It doesn't exist. It's not real. In fact, we have instances of people making baby factory operations. I think of John of God, who was propped up by who? Oprah Winfrey. How does that fit your dichotomy, right? If your worldview is one that the patriarchy is keeping you down, it's keeping you in the barn, it's keeping you cranking out babies, and then you look to a man who actually did run that operation, and the entire reason he was able to is because Oprah Winfrey paved the way for him. It just doesn't make sense. So there, each one, feminism and what's even the masculinism? What is the other one? Masculinity, but it's feminism, and then there's manism. I don't know. It doesn't exist. Machoism, yeah, maybe. But they both have their problems.
Are you talking about like whatever the Andrew Tate thing is? The new right with the manosphere. Is that
the manosphere? Yeah, that's a great wave. So there's feminism, and then there's the manosphere or the red pill movement. And look, it's like, that's a great highlight, right? So you have one delusional side. You need a harem of women. You need to never wear a shirt. You need to have sex with 100 women before you decide if you want to marry any of them. Always sign a prenup. Never let these women get access to your money. Protect the bag, baby boy. Drive the Bugatti. Smoke the cigars. Don't be a like. That's his entire narrative, right? And then the other side, the extreme
it's a little compelling. It's a little
compelling. I like the cigars. I like the don't be. And if I was buff enough, I wouldn't wear a shirt all the time.
Here's the deal let's talk about this guy now, because we're on this now. There's a lot of I guess stuff going around about Andrew Tate where he's beating up his woman, and he might have some of these girls that were doing this video stuff. I don't care. What I do care about is what no one else is talking about. People seem to not like him for the things that they think he may have done. I don't know. I like Andrew Tate. Think he's hilarious. I talk to him. I don't like him because I wouldn't let him talk to my kid. I would be aggravated to be around somebody like that is playing this character 24/7, because it's a character. It's a response to the strong toxic feminine that we've been given for the last decade or so. So I understand what it is, and I understand the response, but taken to its logical conclusion, it's just as poisonous. So I think we need to push back against that in a way, like in a meaningful way. Keep him around because it's a good pushing the ball back. But we also have to, it's a good tool to push back against whatever that we've been dealing with. But we also have to understand, like, this is parody. This is a joke. No matter how many times this guy tells you that, like, I'm really about this. Look at me. I wake up in the morning. I sleep. I don't sleep because I'm, but I also sleep because I'm not. And it's like, okay, like exactly. If you don't look at that and laugh, like, this is entertainment, but also there's an air of truth, right? They're like, a lot of these women are lying. A lot of this stuff is degenerate nonsense, So see what he's doing there. Take the lesson from that, but don't emulate him. Like, it's like completely ridiculous. He put up
we gotta find that middle ground, because that middle, like on one side, it's the the patriarchy, this amorphous thing that seeks to keep women down while they girl boss their way into eternity, and then the other side is drive the Bugatti and 500 women. Like, it is, it's insane that we're caught between these polarities and that anybody is falling for them. That's the thing that really gets me, is like, if you just detach from those narratives.
If you become this meme, okay, hilarious. He posted this. Look at how he's doing, okay? And he's watching Andrew Tate. I don't understand how he's gotten away. I'm a huge fan of the guy, because I try to do my best to do the same thing, like where you blur this line of delusion and comedy and reality, where you're giving an example, but people are taking you serious. Hilarious, because there are dudes out there that will be like, oh, I gotta watch Andrew Tate while I do my girlfriend in this weird sexual position. Dude,
you know what's crazy though? Somebody out there's a woman in a barn right now with no shoes on, and she's constantly being by a man who's coming over, mounting her that way, and watching Andrew Tate while he smokes a cigar, and then he's driving away from his barn in his Bugatti.
One person. There's one person
that's doing that. Like, there's this woman, she's in this barn right now, and all of a sudden she hears the engine of a Bugatti pull up, and she's filled with fear because she knows what's about to happen next. Yeah, these people don't really exist, but we've been locked into these extreme versions, and they're an illusion, and they're, I think, purposely propped up, because obviously if both of these extremes exist in the same arena, one is going to destroy the other, and the arena is going to get destroyed in the process. And I think that's the point. The point is prop up both of these extreme, completely detached from reality narratives, and then watch them fight and watch everything else get destroyed in the process.
Duality. The problem is you have so many impressionable young men and women that are emulating this to the T.
Yeah.
And it's like when you emulate it, when women emulate a man, so feminism is the emulation of masculinity, but it's done by people with a bunch of estrogen, and it just comes out as mean. And when young men who don't have any like real life lessons try to emulate a masculine man, or like the extreme masculine man, it actually comes off kind of feminine. So it's like you guys are striving so hard to become something, and you're just like a parody of it.
You're going so far in one direction that you're circling around and back to the other side.
It's the horseshoe theory. You're like almost touching.
Yes.
But unfortunately now, like in real life, we're stuck with these people. Like when you walk outside, not where I live, but if you go to like a city and you walk outside, you'll see people emulating this in their everyday life. And you're like, oh God, these people are insufferable. It's like, how many are there?
It's Stockholm syndrome from both ends. Everybody's like, they're in love with their enslaver. Women have to do the same thing. They want to be the boss chick. They want to be the boss lady that tells men what to do. But then again, they can't live without them. It's kind of like you're in love with your enslaver, and you're in love listening to Beyonce to tell you that she runs the world, but yet you also want to have babies and want to be, you're like in the middle of both ends, right? And so same thing with men. I know people that run around saying that they're macho man, drive a freaking a huge freaking diesel truck, and at home they're the biggest simp. And it's not because you're not, I don't want to be talking shit about simps. If you're a simp, bro, if you're happy, bro, keep that woman happy, because at the end of the day, that's your chick, right? But or that's your man. But it's like you have to pretend to be somebody you're not, and somebody, like you said, emulating and then being the mirror image of somebody online, and they're too extreme on both ends, bro. It's a tool. It's a propaganda tool. It's programming.
Well, how did we get here, though? And it's the same thing that we started this conversation with. It's frequency, it's energy, it's vibration. We got here by way of spell casting. We got these people, these narratives, these ideas on the biggest screens that America had to offer. We put them in positions of superstars on stage in front of crowds of, millions of people. And all it took was Beyonce to go, who runs the world? Girls. And that's it. She just casts a little spell on you, and all of a sudden a plethora of morons, a sea of idiots, they internalize that to some degree. And then it's, to your point, Treble, they're just conflicted inside, because there's a duality. They're two things. They're one, a normal person who just wants, maybe a good partner and to raise a family and have a nice life and be a good person. But within them, they're subjected to this spell, this narrative that tells you, no, that's not where you want to put your focus and energy. You want to be a girl boss. You want a career. You don't want a family yet. You want to stave that family off for the distant future where your eggs dry up and then all of a sudden you're alone and sad. But at least there's you and Chelsea Handler hanging out together, I guess.
And then you have the mental illness, because they put a liquor store at every freaking, at least in LA they do, they put a liquor store at every block in your super populated city. And then on top of them putting a liquor store with malt liquor that's only $2 so you could get drunk off, you have meth running rampant in the street, and then you have OnlyFans getting bombarded. Bro, I open my freaking Instagram right now, bro, and I don't even watch ass like that, dog, and the first thing that comes up is a piece of ass. I don't care, dude. I try to change my algorithm from within out, but I can't. It's being bombarded on me, bro. I have a dude, his name is Juan. Shout out to Juan from work, and he's like my Bible thumping Christian warrior, blade on blade, sharpening our iron every single day. I go to church every single day with this guy, because we open up the Bible and we discuss and we combat each other on what our opinions are about the Bible. And then we always come out at the top with friendship and love and looking at God, right? And we're like, see, this is what men are missing. Because if you start a day, you wake up, you drink some coffee, and you listen to a little Bible stuff, you start putting that reflection in your life. You start living that same way instead of actually putting on your headset on, listening to what's his name, Durkee, whatever rappers are now, about how to use drugs and how to be and how to wear skinnier jeans than your wife, and et cetera, et cetera. You see what I'm saying, right? Or how to be a gym rat and just be macho and shit, but you can't even pick up your own weight and do 50 push-ups without being hard, or not being faking. Exactly. And then they start overindulging you with the entertainment industry, with the movies and all the stuff that you love. Believe it or not, I'm a Star Wars geek, bro. I freaking love Star Wars, but I understand also that pretending to wield a lightsaber is faking.
I don't know, dude. I've seen some videos where dudes are fighting with lightsabers, and I go, as fake as this is, it's actually very entertaining. It's very well choreographed. I was a big fan.
There's
of those,
a line. There's a line, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know where it is. Like, so one of our boys from the Biblical Hitman, he's like, love Star Wars, love Disney, but I could tell that he's like a human being. It's just something you enjoy. Like, he'll probably go there, look at it, like, this shit's cool. I'm not a Star Wars fan, but when you go to Disney and you see, like, you know, the spaceship, whatever it's called, and it's there, you're like, wow, this thing is like millions of dollars. It's like really detailed, really nice. Then there's the people that are like buying into it, and you're like, these people should be put in a camp. Like, we should put them in train cars right now.
I get it, because I'm not a Star Wars, a Lord of the Rings guy. Like, I'm a big fan of those original 3 Lord of the Rings films, and I recognize that. I think Lord of the Rings did a good job. They told a good story. They got it. Well, no, I mean, they continued on with some sort of Amazon Prime series that was very feminist, very female centric. The main character is a chick who is just, you know, it doesn't matter who you've seen in Star Wars. I mean, in Lord of the Rings before, this chick is doing like triple double backflip somersaults, decapitating gigantic monsters. And, you know, she's unlike any other character that's ever existed in the series. But they're telling you a story. And the reason I say Lord of the Rings did okay with those first 3 films is because I don't know that there was any corrosive messaging. And why that's important is because I recognize the medium by which they would have delivered that messaging. And that medium was the story of Jesus Christ. It's the story of Jesus Christ. It's the truest form of the hero's journey. You have the suffering, which is embodied in Frodo Baggins, him taking on the sins of mankind and watching how it just destroys him as he himself to get to the end of the line to save the world. And then you have the resurrection, which is depicted as Gandalf the Grey, who dies, goes into the underworld, and then returns as Gandalf the White. And then you even have the return of Christ in the Return of the King, which is Aragorn taking his place as you know, on the throne as the rightful king. And the reason that film did so well, there's a lot of things. The cinematography was beautiful. The acting was tremendous. And the storytelling was great. But the storytelling, I would argue, is the most important function. And the story that they told is one that resonates with us on this like really spiritual level. Star Wars did something very similar. There's a hero's journey. There's a little bit more of a complex version in there. But you can find content creators who will pick apart Star Wars all day long for all of its biblical narrative. But the problem is that Star Wars kind of like took a bunch of weird turns and then eventually just started becoming a propaganda piece where Disney is now using it. Yeah. Yes, they're like using it as a cudgel to smash you into obedience. And that obedience is adhere to these cultural values. And we're using Star Wars to do that.
The word cult, you can't have culture without the word freaking CULT in it, bro. Right. So they use it as a weapon, bro, every single day. I'm getting some messages on Flash, and everybody's like, "Yo, you're doing a great job. Love NDS." We got some people saying that they love your show, guys. So that we're doing a great job.
We appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
Very
Stick around.
Stick around, guys. Stick around. We'll change your mind.
Oh, we'll change your mind. I think we have a very good track record of insulting our fans after a while, right?
Yeah, it always happens.
We have Stockholm syndrome on you guys. You guys are the holders, or you guys are the puppeteers of that.
No, we have a different thing. It's not that they're sticking around because we're mean to them. It's that we keep seeing how close they get to influencing us, and then we're like, no, and we shake them off. Because as far as I'm concerned, we're just 2 idiots in a vacuum having a conversation, and you don't need to add to that formula or take away from it. And the second people start getting too cozy and they're like, hey, why don't you do this? Hey, I don't like that you didn't talk about that. Hey, maybe you should make an episode. I go, no, No, because I don't even know what I'm making here. Things just kind of happen here on this show. Narratives develop, guests fall into our laps. I don't really have my hands on the steering wheel as much as you would expect people who are running a show to have their hands on the
There's
steering
naturals
wheel.
about it.
Well, it's not even that we're naturals. It's like, I think if you engage in this sort of thing, you're moved in one way or another. Things open up or they close. Doors open, doors close. You know, one thing falls apart, another thing mysteriously opens up. So we don't get caught up in the minutia of how to control this thing that we're doing. And a lot of people who are fans of the show, they want to control it one way or another. They want to influence it one way or another.
It's funny. I was thinking about that today. I was a little late to this interview because there was like a motorcycle accident. I just was thinking about the last Bohemian Grove that we did, and I remember telling David there was a point where we're like, I don't think we should do. There's a lot of points where I said I don't think we should do this, but the guy decided to book a how do you call it? A drag
queen,
a drag queen show directly after it was a conspiracy night as well. So like we're doing like almost like we had some biblical conspiracy and we were talking about other stuff. And I was just like, damn, this like completely goes against what we're doing. I was like, should we just cancel this? Like this was awful. And it put a really bad taste in my mouth. We ended up doing it. We also ended up making fun of the drag queens as they walked in to prepare, which they didn't like, but I was like, whatever, man. So we were doing that. Yeah. Like, dude. I was like, I don't know. I don't really know what we're gonna do. And all of a sudden, like a brand new venue, an entire new thing popped into our laps. And I'd say it's like 10 times, 100 times better. Would you say?
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah.
Kudos to that, bro.
Yeah, it's just been crazy. So it's like we're stumbling into whatever we're doing. We have no idea what we're doing, but doors open, doors close, and we just continue, I guess, to like we're like in the dark and we're just feeling like we can kind of go through this way and we just go that way.
I hope and pray constantly that what guides this show is the Holy Spirit, even in all its and offensive-ness, you know, that we engage in here. And that is the only thing that I want to influence this. I don't even know how much influence I have over the show because I'm only reacting to things that seem to be happening and falling into our lap. The last thing I want is for anybody else to get any influence. So what people might perceive as like dismissiveness or rudeness, they're correct. And it's really just to protect this thing that we've got going on. Because I think if there's too many chefs in the kitchen or there's too much thought, even that, like there's too much analyzing of what this thing is, it could kind of like fall through your fingers. But I wanted to ask you, Trebles, number one, how long have you been doing this? And number two, after you started to do this, which is to unpack these mysteries in you know, in so many words, was there anything that gave you the impression that you were now engaged in a spiritual sort of warfare?
Good question.
Bro, I've been doing this for almost 5 years, 360 episodes deep already. I've the community has been very welcoming. You guys have been very humble and welcoming. People at higher levels, and don't get me wrong, I've had my shutdowns and they don't like the way I speak, and sometimes they call me an idiot, and it's true. I'm like, hey, just like you guys, humbly just getting through it, right? But I started noticing the decline with my mental health. And the decline at home with the peace. I'm gonna tell you something, guys. I'm gonna tell you something, bro. It's not for the faint of heart, and it's not because consuming it and being a podcast listener is one thing, but trying to put out your own opinions, formulating ideas, doing the research, communicating, networking, and then doing the art, and then being digitally content freaking savvy or whatever, and putting out, it's not only energetically draining, morally draining when people don't want to speak with you, when people call out, when people, you know, that's why when I told you guys I'm very, very sorry for jumping on the gun and not being down the first time, because I know how it feels when people just turn you down, especially of a humble show like me, freaking turning you guys down, right? It's kind of like, it would be for me to do that.
Listen, that was our fault. That was because it's because I don't check Instagram. I checked it. So here's what happened. We were supposed to have you on last week or 2 weeks ago, and you had asked us yesterday. I think you're taking off work or something. You're moving your schedule around just to accommodate us, which we appreciate. But you had asked us you're like, we still good for tomorrow? And I don't check that thing. And then I checked it to send you the link, and I was like, oh shit. Yes, that's like, here's the link for today. But like
I was already at work.
I know. I
Well,
figured. I was like, he's already doing his thing because he didn't know what we're doing. So no big deal, man.
the spirituals are good, bro. I appreciate your honesty and help and support. I noticed the spiritual essence of attacking, bro, when I went sober, December
Mhm.
1st, 2024, bro. This happened last year. It just happened. I was like, wait, what the? Coincidentally, I started reading the Bible. I bought myself a Bible, a recovery Bible, to read people's testimonies and stuff. I started breathing it. I started shitting it. I started consuming it. I started being it. And I was like, what the heck, bro? I started searching the Bible for conspiracy theories, and I started finding other findings. I have a theory that Peter might be just throwing that out there, guys. And then I was like, yo, what the heck? I found out the Constantine thing. So I started seeing that every single conspiracy theory of all time leads to spirituality. If we are suffering, enduring, or going through anything in life, it has to be back spiritual. So then I started more diving into it. The first of the year came around, bro, and I started seeing the different things. I started seeing my wife changing her habits and the way she spoke to me. And I was like, oh, look at that. I didn't have to go drinking. I didn't have to go snort a bag of meth. I could just be me, read a little Bible, and put God first instead of her, removing my happiness from her and putting it on myself and God first. Then I was like, oh, shoot. Look at that. I'm making her happy. She makes me happy back. It's a reciprocating energy. We're parallel now. Isn't that interesting? So yeah, that's when I found out it's definitely spiritual. However, it's been so hard, extremely hard to stay away from beer, to stay away from drugs, to stay away from cursing, because that's one of the biggest things I need to church. I mean, I want to change. And then I started seeing the 8th of every month. Now, I'm gonna bring this in real quick, guys, because it does get a little spiritual and ritualistic. Flash for Flashy_News1, my deep state correspondent. He's a political analyst on the show, and he's my co-host, one of my best friends in the game. He came out and we talk political on the show, so we have at least 2 political episodes a month. And he came out he goes, yo, check out the 8th of every single month for the past 10 years. I was like, whoa, no, we're gonna do the 8th of every month for the last century. And I'm just gonna give you a couple of examples of how spiritual this is on the 8th of every single month. January 8th. 2005, the Palisades fires, right? 100,000 people evacuated. December 8th of 2004, Syria falls, civil war, Assad falls, Damascus falls, Israel invades Syria, Notre Dame gets rebuilt and opened, right? Gates get opened. South Korea martial law crisis, right? And that's just in 2024, and that's just skimming the very top of it. November 8th, we got reports from European flood and Spanish floods. What happened to the Spanish floods? Nobody's talking about Spain and the freaking floods today. They're still cleaning up to this day. October 8th, Hurricane Milton. April 8th, the eclipse, a massive eclipse on April 8th. You guys remember April 8th, 2024? One of the biggest eclipses in the world that you were not going to see in the next 25 years, right?
Yeah.
2023. Mar-a-Lago raid happened on the 8th, right? Israel-Hamas war started on the 8th. U.S. corporate bankruptcies erupt. Brazil election and insurrection on the 8th. August, Maui fires on the freaking 8th. That's when we started really freaking cooking with fire. And then you have balloon, the Chinese balloon gets shot on the 8th. Isn't that funny, bro? July, check this out. The history of, now we're going to go a little historical with it. In history, Washington delivers the first State of the Union on the 8th. El Chapo gets caught on the 8th. In 1817, the stock exchange is funded on the 8th. U.S. declares war against Japan on the 8th. Germany declares war on the U.S. on the 8th. CDC first, the first official alert of COVID on the freaking 8th. Then you have the game of the 26th and the 17th, too advanced, right? It's too advanced for me to even break it down here today. But let's stick with the 8th. March 8th, 2020, the first death of COVID in California explodes all over the media on the 8th. The 8th Sabbath. So now we're talking about ritualistic. I think I mentioned this on the show with you guys. Now there's this thing called Semaine. Correct me if I'm wrong. Semaine? Witchcraft.
That's the Thanksgiving ritual, right?
Yeah.
Semaine. And it's done on the 8th of every Sabbath for them, mainly used celebrated by lightning, huge fires on the 8th of January. When did the freaking Palisades fire start? On the 8th. And then just last month, we've seen a giant. So I don't know if you guys are following this story. I'm trying to break it down. Flash sent it to me last night, and I haven't read through it completely because I was trying to put up a show and stuff. It seems like somebody shut off the sun on the 8th of this month, March, and nobody's talking about it. I witnessed it. I lived it. Yeah, I'm talking about, and I'm gonna dive into a little bit simulation theory, but how the hell is no one talking about this? I've seen some reports and I've seen some other TikTok talking about it, but they shut off. I can't even find the bookings anymore. But I'm in California. I'm in LA. I'm in the flats, bro, and I witnessed the sun blank out. Like if you turn off the light in your home and it completely shuts off for less than a second. And I remember it because I was at home. I didn't go to work that day and I'm sober. That's why I noticed it. And that's why I questioned it, because I'm freaking sober. This is why I know that either we are changing our reality before us, Satan is doing, the accuser is doing something behind our backs or maybe right in front of us, but it is a spiritual attack. And the 8th of every month, something is happening around us. Either a huge media outbreak happens, death, blood, lots of money, transfer of wealth, etc., and etc.
I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and I found myself thinking about the sun this morning. And
I think about the sun a lot.
Yeah, I mean, that's not even. It's like, how often do you think about the Roman Empire? Not as often as I think about the sun, actually.
Yeah, like what the hell is
And
that thing? I think about the moon a little bit more. I'm like, what the fuck is that? But
well, lately, the reason I've been thinking about the sun a lot is because of this polar shift narrative that we've been talking about, and also, obviously, speaking to Crow 777 and him showing us, this image of a second sun, and I'm finding that a second celestial body answers a lot of questions. It certainly answers the question of how might a polar shift come about. But it also answers the question about why people think that the sun is no longer the same color. Now, of course, you could say that the sun goes through cycles and now it's just entered a different thing. And so when we were younger, there's this narrative that, like in the 90s and such, the sun was much more yellow or orange, and that kind of colored the days. They had a different look to them, and now the sun is much more like a white UV light. And I was thinking how a second celestial body could also answer that question, right? It's like, who could even speculate as to why the sun would change its conditions, given that it's been, this constant throughout the human experience all these years? And well, I don't know, but I could never quantify the ways in which a binary star system and the return of a secondary sun would interfere with the first one. I don't even know what that, but I mean, if you told me, well, yeah, what happens is when this thing gets close enough, it's going to interact with the sun's going to change colors a little bit. I would go, okay, yeah, that kind of checks out. Who the hell knows what'll happen if you bring that thing? So I don't know. It's just interesting that you bring that up, because even this morning I was looking around and I was feeling the warmth of the sun, and I was like, is it different? Does it look different? Because there's a lot of people that say that it's different now than it was when we were in the 90s. And I want to agree with them. I feel like colors were richer, and just the tone of, the days outside with my friends in the parks, it just looked different.
It has to do a lot with the atmosphere and the trails. But I'm gonna be honest with you, they don't want you to keep your eye to the sky, bro. It's not, it doesn't work like that. They don't want you to observe. They want to observe you. The more they keep you thinking that the light of the sun takes 8 days to arrive, you could perceive it with your eye. The more they tell you that you were a spinning ball and you're worthless, that you're tiny, that you don't have any power, that you can't amplify electricity, even though we can, that you can't transfer energy, that you are a piece of crap, that you're just it's a dust. The more they tell you these things, the more insignificant you feel and the more insignificant you behave. Believe it or not, because they're controlling it, bro. I had this theory, dude, because of the sun, the light of the sun, right? And then it just popped in my head. I have this theory, and it's funny. I know you're gonna laugh, but hey, bro, look, check this out. Yeah, going back to like the womanizing of our kids, I think if you can get now, I when I had COVID, I took off my shirt and I let I let the freaking sun beat me for 30 minutes every morning, and then nothing happened. I'm free. I'm 4-time COVID survivor, and I'm here still popping. But I think if you can get vitamin D, which is what they don't want you to have, vitamin D from sunlight, you can get hormones from blue light, and we're using a lot of blue light stuff.
Interesting.
Oh, interesting. The screens are making us. I love that,
dude. My wife was looking. My wife was looking at a study yesterday. It's like, oh, Japan determines that soy is actually causing, young men to produce estrogen. And it's like, yeah, no shit. We've been saying that for a long time. I'm just saying that because I'm tired of this cycle where conspiracy theorists suspect something given the information that's at hand, and then it's denied outright. And then it finally is acknowledged, but just not for why you think it is. And so the for why you think it is, that is not the case right now, is this is just the result of soybeans being a very sturdy crop. And so they do well with monocropping. And because they're resilient and you can plant them, you know, for a giant portion of the year and they're pretty hardy, it makes sense to plant a lot of them. And then after you plant a lot of them, you start to figure out a bunch of different applications for them. So then soybean oil or soy ends up in all these different products. And to me, it's just fascinating because I think we lost him there for a second. He pressed the wrong button. There we go. You muted him. To me, it's fascinating because we've been saying that it's real, but we've been saying it's to feminize the men. And they're saying like, no, it is real, but it's not to feminize the men. It's to you know, have basically a good product that can withstand harsh weathers and you know, climates and shit like that. So I don't know. That's just where my head was at. But I want to respect your time, Trebles. We're at the 1.5 hour mark. This has been a fascinating conversation. I'm glad we were able to link up again. One more time for the audience. Where can everybody find you if they want to support you?
First of all, guys, thank you. Thank you for being humble. Thank you for bringing that up. Thank you for being friends and listening to me. I hope very hard, and I'm striving every day to become a little bit more like you or beyond you. And I'm striving, bro. And being on your show has not only me, but honored me and given me the strength and put fire inside of me to keep on blasting out episodes and continue kicking ass. I'm sorry if I didn't bring bombs of fire, but bombs of knowledge, but hey, you know, I tried.
No, it was a great conversation, brother. It was a great conversation.
Yeah, the next time we have you on, we're gonna cover some of your like biblical conspiracies and stuff. But I think this was a good episode because I wanted to hear a little bit about your background and I want to know more about you. And I feel like our audience now kind of has that.
Dude, keep what I told you. Don't send it back. Just keep it. Anyway,
fine. Thank you very much, Trebles. I appreciate it.
There we go. Guys, you could find us. I want to thank the Lord for allowing me to be here today, and you can find us at paranoiaradio.com. Ladies and gentlemen, do not forget to check us out. Check out the affiliations with Flavors of the Forest. Shout outs to Nelson from Flavors of the Forest, and also check us out at paranoiaradio.com. Do not forget to drop a 5-star review on a podcast that allows other people to enjoy the show as much as I enjoyed making it.
I love it, man. This dude, man.
It's been a fun conversation, brother. It really.
I wish my brain worked like that. My brain.
You know what fucked me over? My freaking accent, bro. If I had a freaking beautiful detailed accent,
I think it gives you like this character, this like depth of character that's a lot of fun. And I don't think people, you know what's funny about it is just people aren't used to this information coming from that accent, which is a huge actually benefit because it's like, oh shit, this guy's cooking. This guy's cooking. So thank you, man. I really appreciate your time. And until next time, Top, do we have anything else?
Yeah, we'll be back at 3 p.m. with the Cosmic Peach. So until then, don't forget to obey, submit, and comply. We'll see you guys later.
The greatest hypnotist on planet Earth is a oblong box in the corner of the room. It is constantly telling us what to believe is real.
You can persuade people that what they see with their eyes is what there is to see. You can't.